Today's a WRAL weather alert day because of the heat that we're going to see. It's going to feel like 104 to 109 across our area this afternoon, and it continues for much of the week. I'll show you the numbers.
And we are following some breaking news this morning. 3 men stabbed. This is a live look at the scene on New Hope Church Road in Raleigh. What we know about the victims as police search for a suspect.
Middle East tension, new bombings overnight by Iran on Israel. What President Trump is saying about the situation after the U.S. strikes on nuclear sites over the weekend. 4:30 is the time on your Mondays. We'll bring you inside on this WRAL weather alert day, and it might be where you want to stay today in the AC. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey in for an H2. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I'm back from a little vacation. Elizabeth's back. You're back.
Yeah.
We all were away. What are we coming back to? This heat is insane, Elizabeth.
It's hot here in the summer, and we're used to it for the most part, but there are certain times of the year where we ask you to be especially cautious, and this entire week is one of those times. So right now, skies are clear. It is 79 degrees. This is part of the problem. Our temperatures overnight are not dropping, and so it's not allowing things to cool off. So when we start at near 80 degrees, it just doesn't take long for our temperatures to really skyrocket. On top of that, our dew point is high. When the dew point is in the 70s, it always feels hotter than the actual temperature. So look at these dew points this morning in the low 70s, this afternoon right at 70. And so that kicks up the heat index. So here's that heat index forecast again. 108 in Durham and Raleigh, 109 in South Hill, 109 Goldsboro, 104 Sanford, 105 in Southern Pines. That's what it's going to feel like in the middle of the afternoon for us. So again, it's one of those days that you just need to take it easy. Actual high at 100. We have a number of days in our forecast this week at 100. We typically average one of those. So this is an unusual heat wave for us. We're going to go over what to expect for the rest of the week coming up.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. And we are following some breaking news this morning. 3 people are hurt after a stabbing early this morning in Raleigh. Ali Kadlabar is at the scene on New Hope Church Road in the WRAL Breaking News Tracker. Ali, officers there trying to find the person or people who did this.
Yes, Michelle, and as you can see behind me, it's still an active scene. Raleigh police tell me within the last 30 minutes, detectives got here to investigate and try to find that suspect. Take a look at this video from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker. Now, this all happened within the last 2 hours. Officers tell me they found 2 men with stab wounds in front of a nightclub on New Hope Church Road. They found another man with stab wounds a block away. Now, when we got here around 3 a.m., we saw an ambulance even leaving the scene. The victim's injuries, luckily, were non-life-threatening, but the suspect, as we mentioned, is still on the run. We're working to find out the name of the suspect and what led up to this stabbing right here at the nightclub in front of the nightclub on New Hope Church Road. Also, I want to mention that this section here on Brentwood Avenue and Atlantic Avenue, it was closed and blocked off by officers, but now it is open within the last 10 minutes. Reporting in Raleigh, Ali Kadlabar, WRAL News.
This morning, more Iranian strikes hit Israel just days after the U.S. launched a stealth bombing mission on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. At least 18 people were injured in Tel Aviv after several homes were hit. In Iran, authorities say more than 400 people have been killed in Israeli strikes. Meanwhile, satellite images are beginning to show the aftermath of the U.S. strikes on Iran. President Trump says significant damage was done to their nuclear facilities below ground level.
And while the White House calls the strikes a necessary move against Iran's nuclear program, North Carolina experts warn the fallout could land right here at home. We are already seeing some of those impacts this morning. The State Department is issuing a worldwide travel warning, and stock futures have already slipped. That is in part because Iran's parliament threatened to shut down the Straits of Hormuz. That's a narrow waterway that carries about 1/5 of the world's crude oil. UNC political science professor Nathan Pappas says cyber attacks are also a threat, but it's unlikely there will be missiles on U.S. soil.
If there's going to be some retaliation, it won't likely hit the continental United States. Iran doesn't have the missile capacity to get here.
And AAA says every $10 jump in crude oil adds roughly 25 cents to a gallon of gas. With that possible increase in gas prices comes an increase in the price of everything, including food and medicine. If the strait closes, drivers could feel it at the pump within days.
Today's a WRAL weather alert day because of the dangerous heat that we will feel later today, and that means you'll want to limit your time outdoors. WRAL's Laura Levine is live this morning at Lake Johnson in Raleigh. And Laura, we're expecting to see people try to get their running and exercising in a little earlier than usual today, right?
Oh, absolutely. Good morning, Jeff. And on a summer day like this one, we know so many people are eager to get outdoors and enjoy local parks like Lake Johnson here. However, health experts say it's really important to note that when the temperatures reach more than 90 degrees, heat illness really is a major risk. So we know with those recommendations from doctors, limiting your time outdoors, especially exercising between the hours of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. is really important. Heat stroke, heat cramps, and heat exhaustion are possible with prolonged exposure or physical activity. It takes longer for sweat to cool us off when it's this humid out. And if you do take your kiddos to a park, maybe where there's some splash pads, slides, it's important to note that in direct sunlight, swings and slides can get dangerously hot. And the effects of heat are cumulative. We've heard many people say this from time and time again, especially health experts from day to day. You may not feel it on the first day, but by tomorrow and Wednesday, it's going to really kick in. So it's important to get ahead of it, stay hydrated, and limit your time in the sun. Laura Levine, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
And covering Wake County this week, there will be some reprieve from the hot weather. Local cooling stations will be available through at least Wednesday, depending on the forecast. The cooling stations are located at libraries, regional centers, and health and human service offices. Several other counties in the viewing area have also opened cooling stations as well.
This morning, police have identified the gunman who planned a mass shooting at a Michigan church Sunday. Authorities say 31-year-old Brian Browning was shot and killed by a church security guard. A terrifying moment that those shots were fired, captured on the church's live stream here. You can see families running for safety after the gunman started shooting outside. The incident happened shortly after 11 a.m. Sunday. Officials say that Browning was armed with an AR-15 style rifle, a handgun, and more than a dozen loaded magazines. Aside from the shooter, one person was hurt with a gunshot wound to the leg. The investigation is still underway this morning.
And back here at home, a woman is dead after a shooting in Durham. It happened on Linwood Avenue at around 11 o'clock Saturday night. When police got there, they found the woman who had been shot. She died from her injuries at the scene. Neighbors described what they saw and heard at the time of that shooting.
You look out the window and you see, 8 police cars, 2 ambulances, and a fire truck. It's kind of overwhelming at first because, you're a little worried if something's happening. It makes me kind of nervous just because obviously you don't want to be living near crime, but there's a lot of nice houses around here. It's a good area otherwise.
Durham police have not identified the woman who was killed at this time or released any information about possible suspects.
New video shows twin water spouts off of Florida's Gulf Coast. Take a look at these funnels here, captured near Anna Maria Island. Water spouts are pretty common in Florida, but double spouts, that is a bit of a rare sight.
That's pretty cool. Well, today decisions could be made over when to completely phase out Power School in North Carolina. A specially called meeting of the State Board of Education will vote on whether to shorten the state's contract with Power School. Student data and grade access over the application still ends at the time of the month. The state may choose to keep it for job applicant tracking in 95 school districts and 90 charter schools. We will monitor decisions made today about the service.
Today, a discussion over health insurance reform is planned in D.C. U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Mehmet Oz will go over their plan for health insurance changes. They say today's news conference will share ways to improve access to care for millions of Americans. We'll bring you details of their plan as we learn more.
A reminder, a beloved state park is reopening to the public this week. Hurricane Helene devastated Chimney Rock State Park nearly 9 months ago. The popular tourist destination in western North Carolina is reopening on Friday. Advance reservations are required and capacity is limited as recovery efforts there continue. You will be able to book your park reservation starting today on chimneyrockpark.com.
Oklahoma City Thunder are NBA champs. They took the title with a win over the Indiana Pacers last night in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, named the Finals MVP. It's the first time the Thunder have won the championship since they moved to Oklahoma City from Seattle.
Coming up, honoring Juneteenth, how the emotional holiday brought people together across the Triangle.
Celebrating Pride, why the LGBTQ plus community in Raleigh says this year's event was more important than ever before.
And today is a WRAL Weather Alert Day as you take a live look at Zebulon. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center looking at this dangerous heat wave ahead and when some of us will feel a heat index approaching 110.
From the WRAL Severe Weather Center, North Carolina's most experienced team of meteorologists.
4:43 on this WRAL Weather Alert Day. Our skies are clear, and that means we have full sun to really help to crank up the heat as we get through the afternoon. It's a very warm start this morning in Monkey 2, 79 in Durham, 72 Holly Springs, 76 in Cary and Garner, and 77 degrees in Goldsboro. Over the next several nights, we're not going to see our temperatures dropping off, and this is a look at our heat index. It'll feel like 70s this morning, but look at how fast that temperature changes. By lunchtime, it already feels like almost 100, and then it's going to feel like 107 to 108 as we get into the afternoon. So just a very dangerous day to be outside. At the pool, officially 100. And I'll tell you what, I mean, when my kids were little, there was definitely a point at which it was even too hot to be at the pool. The pool deck just gets too hot. So if you're headed to the pool, you know, up through lunchtime, and then really everybody needs to head inside. We're going to talk more about how long this will last coming up.
This massive fire was captured on the interstate in Columbus, Ohio. Look at that thick black smoke. This happened after a fuel tanker truck overturned. You can see that massive plume of black smoke rising from Interstate 270. Authorities say the tanker was carrying more than 8,000 gallons of fuel when it crashed. The driver is in stable condition at a hospital. The cause of the crash is under investigation.
Celebrations commemorating Juneteenth across our area brought people together through music, food, and culture. They're also a time to reflect on why we celebrate. WRAL's Laura Levine spoke with people at historic Stagville in Durham about the difference and the significance of this emotional milestone.
You kind of look at like the suffering that people went through.
People from near and far are walking through historic Stagville, connecting to a dark past on the once Cameron family-owned plantation.
And it just like makes you just really go through like a deep sense of emotions.
This was home to about 1,000 enslaved people at its peak. The now historical site commemorating the moment they were set free.
So we want to remember the stories of people who were seeking freedom long before 1865.
Vera Soselsky is the site manager leading tours this Juneteenth weekend through a row of two-story wooden houses that held 20 to 30 enslaved people each, painting the picture of pain and perseverance.
People continued to struggle for citizenship, for voting rights, access to land ownership, safety for themselves and their families after the end of enslavement.
She says during emancipation, 1 in 3 people in the state were still enslaved.
But they also had hopes and dreams of new safety, new opportunity, new possibilities.
Those new possibilities are represented in Durham today. From the African-American businesses to neighborhoods descendants now live in.
So when folks come here to Stagville, they're going to hear the narratives of Mary Walker, of Cy Hart, of Dempsey Henderson, of Emma Turner, of real people who lived through emancipation here. And through those stories, we can empathize with and have a deeper understanding.
The struggle and resilience on display with celebrations around the globe. Juneteenth has become an opportunity of reflection and growth, highlighting why this part of history still matters today.
That was Laura Levine reporting. Well, crowds gathered also over the weekend to celebrate Juneteenth at North Carolina Central University. Fashion took a prominent place at that event. Local vendors set up tents offering everything from clothing and fabric to health advice and books. There was also live music and entertainment specifically for children. This weekend also saw Juneteenth celebrations in Apex, Cary, Garner, and other local communities.
And the heat didn't stop the turnout for this year's Out Raleigh Pride Festival. Thousands made it out to the event on Fayetteville Street on Saturday. This was the 13th year this festival has been held in downtown Raleigh. People there say the recent legislation and when Supreme Court rulings there impacting the LGBTQ community, it's more important than ever to show up and celebrate. Money raised from this year's Pride Festival helps to support the LGBTQ Center of Raleigh.
A lot of people were out yesterday. Maybe a good idea not to head out today if you don't have to. This dangerous heat, Elizabeth, is upon us.
It is, and it's hard for people to, slow down and change their habits, and it is often hot here in the summer. We're at the end of June here, heading into July, but there's just some times of the year where the heat is so much that it does cause problems for us. And so that's going to be this week, and not just a couple of days, but really all week long. Our highs will be between 96 and 102 across the entire viewing area all week long. It'll be the hottest, most likely from now until Wednesday, but it really isn't going to change significantly once we get into Thursday and Friday. So for today, we have a heat advisory for a heat index at 104 to 109. For Tuesday and Wednesday, we have an extreme heat watch, so that could become an extreme heat warning or a heat advisory, depending on where you are. That heat index could be above 110. In Raleigh right now, skies are clear, 79 is our temperature, so we're starting very warm this morning. So, when you start here, it just doesn't take that much to get you to a really high number for the day. Plus, the dew point at 70, that's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. And the reason that we have a heat index is the way that our bodies cool themselves is by sweating, and then we have evaporative cooling that happens on our skin, so that makes us feel better. Well, when there's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, there's nowhere for that sweat to go, and so it doesn't evaporate, and so our bodies just can't cool themselves like they normally can, and so that's where the heat index comes from. Our temperatures right now, 79 in Durham, 77 Fayetteville, 74 over to the south and east, 76 in Cary, 72 Holly Springs, 76 in Garner. So it's just a warm and muggy start already. We're going to see a high of 100 in Raleigh, 102 in Durham, 101 in Fayetteville. This will be our first round of triple-digit heat. We typically average one per year, and so we're getting an early start, and we may see 3 days in a row with triple-digit heat. Why is that? We have a big area of high pressure. High pressure systems have sinking air. That sinking air condenses and compresses and warms, and as long as that high sits over us, we're going to be dealing with the heat, and that's going to be for quite some time. This is a look at the heat index. Today 108, tomorrow 113, Wednesday 107, and we're still at 105 to 106 Thursday and Friday. Our records look like this. Our record is 100 for today. We could tie it. Our record for Tuesday is 99. Our forecast 102, so we'll probably break that one, and then Wednesday we could tie it again. So things to remember: don't be outside if you don't have to from lunchtime into the afternoon. The impact of high heat is cumulative on your body, meaning maybe you did okay today, but by Wednesday you succumb to heat-related illness. We do change the forecast a little bit into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with a chance of some storms. We'll walk through that coming up.
Thanks, Elizabeth. In bloom, wildflowers make driving on North Carolina's interstates just a treat for the eyes. The story behind these roadside attractions.
And safe shopping websites like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and OfferUp, they make it easy to buy, sell, and trade items. In the next hour, 5 on Your Side shares what you need to know to stay safe when making the in-person exchange. Two classic movies are marking milestone anniversaries with big screen returns, and Dolly Parton and Motley Crue getting together for a good cause. Douglas Hyde has all that and more in your Hollywood Minute.
Director Joseph Kosinski brings his Top Gun Maverick visual flair to F1, which will soon be speeding into cinemas. Kosinski says they had to invent a new camera in order to really put audiences in the driver's seat.
We started with the camera package we developed for Top Gun Maverick, but it was too big, too heavy for this film. We shrunk the camera down to about a third of its original size, made it much lighter, and then worked with Mercedes, who was building our car, to integrate the camera mounts into the car body itself in 16 different places.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Two very different films are celebrating important milestones by returning to the big screen this month. Brokeback Mountain is back in cinemas in celebration of its 20th anniversary. And the 90s rom-com Clueless celebrates its 30th year with a new theatrical run as well. Dolly Parton and Motley Crue team up for a new version of the band's 1985 hit, Home Sweet Home. And it's for a good cause. A portion of the single's profits will go to Covenant House, which provides shelter and meals to youth experiencing homelessness. In Hollywood, I'm Douglas Hyde.
Well, Pixar couldn't do it. Even zombies weren't enough to topple How to Train Your Dragon at the box office this weekend. The live-action remake remained the #1 film, bringing in $37 million in ticket sales. This was its second weekend. The zombie apocalypse thriller 28 years later came in second with $30 million. Pixar's Elio notched a modest $21 million, the lowest opening ever for Pixar.
It's that time of year again. The State Department of Transportation's Wildflower program is in full bloom. The program started 40 years ago as a way to add some beauty to the state's highways. It is largely funded by the sale of personalized license plates. The flowers are pretty, but the DOT asks you to enjoy them from the highway and do not stop. They are not designed for public access, and stopping on the side of the highway is dangerous for you and other drivers.
Filing for bankruptcy, what the move for chip maker Wolfspeed means for its facilities here in North Carolina.
And Middle East tension, new bombings overnight by Iran on Israel. What President Trump is saying about the situation after the U.S. strikes on nuclear sites.
And breaking news this morning, 3 men were stabbed in Raleigh. This is a live look right now at that scene on New Hope Church Road. What we know about the people stabbed and the search for the person or people who did this.